This is the Weighing In Podcast with Rick and Jina. This podcast is a collaboration between Empower Weight Loss and Lifestyle Coaching and Next Step Lifestyle Coaching. In this episode, we talk about the bottom line currency for all weight management, calories. And while it's never been more important to be aware of the calories you're eating, it's also never been easier to underestimate those calories. Coming up next, the shocking calories of everyday foods.
Jump in. This is going to be a good one, this podcast. I've been looking forward to this one.
Me too. I mean, I look forward to all of them and I have fun thinking about them, but I think this is the one I've had the most fun thinking about.
Yes. This one will be fun for our listeners, so stay tuned.
Yeah.
Listen up.
Originally, you and I last week were brainstorming topics for our next podcasts. We came up with some good ones and we're going to do them. But then we looked at it and it's like, well, all of these have one thing in common, which was calories. And then you and I lapsed into a little like a trading of the blows of calorie examples that we've seen recently. And then I think you said, this should be our podcast.
Yeah.
This should be the next one that we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So here we are. Yes. So the shocking calorie values of everyday foods. That's what we're going to talk about.
Dun, 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 dun.
Did you have a chance to ask any of your members for examples?
I did.
Oh,
I
good.
did. And it was funny. There was a lot of similar answers.
Yeah.
So should I tell you what I got, or do you want to tell me yours first?
Well, I think we let them unfold here a little bit. We got a lot of some overlap, but a lot of answers as well. Familiar cast of characters. Let me just, for effect, let me tell you, I tried to categorize the examples that we got from our members. Obvious versus sneaky calories.
Okay.
So like the calorie explosion examples, and then the ones that were like, are you kidding me? Health halos came up.
Yep. I got a lot of those. Yep.
And then sort of like the sneaky, the after the fact bad news calories. Like you find out after when after you've consumed them and then you somehow find out how many calories it was and you're like, oh my God, you gotta be kidding me.
Because when you're consuming it, you're thinking it can't be that bad.
Yeah, I have a personal example of that.
Yes.
I have a couple pre-programmed high calorie routines that people generously shared, which when they confronted these routines, they were just blown away and said, I just never again. And then, I think we're going to be bombarding people with these examples. We'll have to, at some point, wave the flag. But I did pull out a couple of classic examples from the past that we have shared that are probably not as extreme as they were at the time. But at the time, they pretty much blew people away. So those were my sort of areas. One thing you did mention before we get into the calorie examples and just how unbelievably high they are, it's important to acknowledge that we all have a calorie budget. So why did you think that was important to say up front?
Well, because I think it puts the information of the calories in the food into context. I mean, you can look at something that has, 700 calories, and that can be good if you don't know what your budget is. And so I think it puts it into context. It just gives you a frame of reference. And then as we get into it, the other frame of reference for me is physical activity. Yeah. So we can get into that in a little bit more detail. But yeah, it just gives you a context for the number and a frame of reference. And it means more, I think.
Yes. Without a calorie budget framework, there's really no meaningful consequence to the calories as we share them here. So even something that seems innocent, when you measure it versus your calorie budget, you go, well, I got to make sure I'm spending wisely here.
Yeah.
300 calories suddenly becomes like, well, that's a percentage of what I can eat in the day. So I think it was such an important point to make.
Yes. And it allows you to say, is it worth it? Because I think, and we'll make this point again, and I said this with my members, I'm not telling you not to eat these foods. I just want you to be aware of the calories in these foods so that you can choose wisely with your eyes wide open.
So In terms of the budget, in the first 2 decades of our work together, we used to use just sort of a ballpark estimate was that women get approximately 11 calories per pound of their body weight, and men get, 12 calories per pound. But then we adjusted those values down just because it was so clear that even the spontaneous physical activity that was just a part of everyday living was systematically getting snuffed out from services and technology and whatnot. So then we brought those estimates down to 10 calories per pound of body weight for women and 11 calories per pound of body weight for men. And, these are just estimates. Not everyone has the same metabolism, though there's less variability than people would like to think. And there are more complicated and sophisticated formulas than that. But that's a good sort of working framework.
And just to clarify, because people always ask me why men 12 and why are men higher than women? Yes. And I think this is also interesting. So biologically, men have more muscle, and muscle is what fuels metabolism. So if you have more muscle, you're going to burn calories at a higher rate. Yes. And so it's a really good reason why exercise is also important. Just side note, I think.
Yes. Yes. And, on average, is it fair to say that women tend to have slightly higher body fat? I think the reasoning behind that, if I remember, was just because of bearing children. They needed that. So as we're starting here, Jina, already 2 strikes against the women.
We're doomed. We're doomed. Here we go.
All right. So you start wherever you want. And, I've got lots of examples here. I even have a couple of specific foods to show on camera if anyone's watching.
I do too. I have one. We probably have the same one. All right. So I'll start. So the classic for me is the muffin. The muffin. And honestly, Rick, if we had time, we should show your hospital muffin video.
I can absolutely. If we don't show it, we can include it in the description, the link to it.
Yes, because it is so well done, number one.
So this is a video that we're talking about.
The video that Rick made a while ago, and it illustrates the calories in a muffin that he got at the hospital while in the hospital visiting someone.
Yes.
And it is very well done and very interesting. But so the muffin was the first thing I remember learning that I was blown away, like mind blown, that one innocent little piece of food that I could probably eat in 3 minutes had so many calories. So I have a visual. Can I show my visual?
Yes.
Look at this puppy.
I don't know, Jina. That looks very familiar to what I have. Look at this.
All right. So how big is yours?
So we're showing literally the same muffin. Is this from Dunkin' Donuts?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Mine is a chocolate chip one.
Okay. Mine's the coffee cake. I got the one that tempted me less.
I know, right?
Okay. So who wins calorie wise?
600.
Oh, you beat me. 580. Oh, wait a minute. We're playing the wrong game here. I win. Mine has fewer calories.
but pretty much the same, right?
Right. No. So put it up again. Put it, and for people who are just watching.
Well, so let me do. So here's my hand. Okay. So, and here's the muffin in my hand. Like it's right.
Yes.
Just for.
Again, if you're just listening, probably most people are just listening.
Oh, right.
This is the most innocent look. There's nothing extreme about it. It's just an everyday, ordinary, common muffin. And yet that is 600 calories. And
that is almost half my budget. It's getting up there. And one food item that wouldn't take me a long time to eat. I'd eat it in the car, probably.
Right.
And that would take me to burn off that muffin. So this is the piece on exercise that I think is such a good frame of reference or context or to give it more meaning. It would take me over 2 hours to burn off the same calories. And I'm not going to do that. I'm just not going to do that.
Yeah. For me, that's 6 miles. That muffin is 6 miles. So you just mentioned it from a time perspective. Mine's just the brute reality of how many miles. It's amazing how that math works.
I think of it too, and you did this in your video, how many pieces of fruit is that? Or how many cups of vegetables is that? It's so much that you wouldn't eat 6 bananas in one sitting. No one does that.
Yeah.
So
programmatically through the years, we just do ballpark algorithms to sort of estimate people's rate of weight loss and how many calories they're eating. We would just hypothetical average fruit or veggie, 85 calories a cup. Right. That includes the starchy ones. That includes the less starchy ones. If you're trying to eat lower calorie ones, it's going to be fewer calories than 85 per serving. But just take the 600 calories. So you're at more than 6 pieces of fruit before you start to approach the calories on that single muffin that you just showed. Yeah. Unbelievable.
No one eats it. So that's the iconic.
Yeah, it's iconic. That's the right word for it. It's so. Well, I'll mention Gail T had mentioned, but she basically poo-pooed the muffin. We all know that muffins are really high calorie, which is not an assumption to make if you haven't been trained in calories. Right. I think it's the opposite. But she mentioned the bagel and cream cheese blew her away at Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah. Dunkin' Donuts is from our part of the country, so we're a little Dunkin' Donuts centric here. But for over 500 calories for the bagel and cream cheese, Andrea, who it works with Bill, mentioned muffins, and she invoked just the whole, it's sort of the health halo. They have raisins, they can have fiber, and the muffin that she mentioned was 650 calories. So she outdoes your 600 calorie muffin.
Yeah, I got, isn't it a fruit serving if it's a blueberry muffin?
Right.
It was a joke. It's a joke. But yeah, I mean, it has a little of that health. I don't know. I mean, when you think of a muffin, a bran muffin, a corn muffin, a blueberry muffin, like it isn't like a donut. Like it's obvious to people that donuts are bad, although donuts can interestingly have fewer calories than the muffin. And one of my members said, it's just glorified. It's just cake. She said, it's just cake without frosting. I thought that was funny.
Yeah. Someone described it in our chat as it's just an ugly cupcake. I liked that.
Ugly cupcake. That's right.
Yeah. So one of our members, Carol H., who Bill is working with, I've had a chance to work with. She mentioned the hospital muffin, so we definitely need to link to that. But then she also mentioned another category of surprises, which was a very popular one with our membership. Are we ready to move off of muffins?
Absolutely. I'm
ready.
Okay.
Carol cited salads.
Oh, okay.
Salads and the mind-blowing calories when you look in so many seemingly innocent salads these days.
Yeah.
So Carol mentioned it. Larone, it was her first response. She mentioned the salads. And then Jim B., one of our long-term members, he mentioned a Caesar salad that, I mean, he knew it. Some of these salads weren't necessarily diet salads, but he mentioned a Caesar salad with 1,600 calories.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in restaurants where the pizzas, like I'm thinking of California Pizza Kitchen, pizza calories, because they list the calories and are lower than the salads. So that is a good one for people to be aware of.
Yeah. So if you're not watching, I'm now showing Jina the cheesecake menus for salads. So here it is, Cheesecake Factory. And I'll just make a quick point here. If you're looking at the calories, it's all obvious. But if you're not, think about how you could ride the health halo of the innocent sounding Sheila's chicken and avocado salad. So chicken, right? Prototype diet food, right? Avocado. Is there any food that's got a stronger health halo than avocados? I don't think there is one.
Right.
That little baby will run you 1,780.
Come on.
I'm not making this up. It's right here in black and white.
Wow.
Basically an 1,800 calorie salad that if you're not paying attention, you could be patting yourself on the back, feeling good about. Because you could have made so many other choices.
Yeah, salad is not a salad, is not a salad, is not a salad. You have to read between the lines for sure.
No, and it's the hidden calories in so many of these salads that you have to be aware of.
So what is it? Let's let people know. It's the dressing, it's the nuts, it's the I mean, pretty much those are the biggies, right?
Those are the biggies. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are the biggies. I don't think you ever get so much. Well, it's not really, you don't usually get fried chicken or something like that in a salad. You
Yeah.
usually don't even get that much. So it really is the hidden dressings that
Yeah.
adds to it.
The
Maybe
other
some
thing too
seeds.
is like that chicken, how do we know how it's prepared? So it says chicken, but could it be breaded?
Right.
You know, so there's that stuff. So things for people to think about when they look at a menu. You have to kind of read between the lines a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was this huge movement towards posting the calories on menus,
Mhm.
which, it seems random to me. It's like some menus have them, some don't. But what I do remember is just how little effect it had posting the calories on different foods on people's food choices. The studies were underwhelming, to
Yeah.
say the least.
Yeah, it doesn't make a difference. It's interesting though. I mean, I think it makes a difference to people when they're looking for, but to the average person who's going out to dinner and doesn't want to think about that, it's not going to make a difference. They're going to more go with what they're used to, you know?
Isn't it pretty rare when someone is, oh, I'm going to the restaurant and I'm like in full diet mode? It's
Yeah.
kind of the opposite for most people. It's,
Yeah.
I'm going to I don't do this all the time. I'm gonna at least enjoy myself a little bit. I mean, that's a very powerful response.
Yeah, it's
All right,
true.
give me another one. Shocking calorie values in everyday foods.
Well, the one of the bigger ones for me is coffee drinks.
Mm-hmm.
Coffee drinks. And in fact, I did a little research on that.
Do tell.
So I don't have a menu, but I did write some notes to myself. So again, sorry, Dunkin' Donuts, but these frozen drinks are very popular in the summer as we head into summer. And you see a lot of kids drinking them, adults drinking them. They're very, very popular and they're advertised and whatever. So the Dunkin' Donuts Coolada vanilla bean flavor large
Mm-hmm.
is 790 calories. Now let's remember that it's a coffee drink.
Yes, right.
I mean, really, it's a frap. It has 167 grams of added sugar, which is 42 teaspoons.
Repeat that number.
167 grams,
Wow.
so 42 teaspoons of sugar.
You can't appreciate that until you take a teaspoon with a
Mhm.
big bowl of white sugar and
Mhm.
just 42 times. Just put
Mhm.
it into a see-through glass. 42
Mhm.
times. That is
Yeah,
unbelievable.
yeah. Put it in a plastic cup and see. It like it's like that much.
Unbelievable.
And here's another one. It gets better. The triple mocha frozen coffee. Triple mocha frozen coffee large is 1,100 calories.
Mm, mm.
So now, it's a coffee drink. And then, of course, if you get it with the muffin,
Oh, see, it just all goes in one direction, more than you think.
yeah. So that one's, and Starbucks is the same way. Of course, there's ways to get around it and have
Mhm.
a latte or a coffee beverage that doesn't have all that. But I think, it's right there on the menu. It's advertised and put in your face, and that's what people want, and it's a treat, and who cares, and all the things. So,
I have two thoughts on the coffee drinks and the astonishing calories. The first is it's a drink.
right.
So, well, I had a coffee drink for breakfast. I mean, people don't tend to say that. It's like, well, I didn't really have breakfast, but I had my coffee drink. You just don't look at it as the source of calories that so many of them are. But the other one is how easy it is for these, maybe the caffeine is part of it for some of them, is they just become cherished routines.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's how I start my day. I mean, I have my coffee routine
Mm-hmm.
that I start my day with, but there's so many people look at the lines at Starbucks or Dunks or any coffee shop, wherever people are in the country.
Yeah. Well, and now you have an app that you can actually order it all up and then just run it and get it.
Ah, yes.
I mean, it's the world of convenience.
Comfort crisis, ladies and gentlemen.
Comfort crisis. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So that one
Um,
always blows my mind. Always, every season it comes along and I'm like, what is going on with this? So
yeah, that's unbelievable. So again, we're talking about calories because calories, they are what determine people's weights over time. If you want to lose weight, it's a calorie issue. If you're gaining weight, it's a calorie issue. And to put your attention anywhere else is very, very inefficient, because if there are other variables that affect people's weights, none of them hold a candle to the calorie issue. So you mentioned the coffee and the coffee drinks. Let me bring in one of the routines that a member shared. So this was from Angela, who shared, this is, pre-weight loss, pre-program, a drive-through routine where she would get a honey-dipped cruller with a large regular coffee. Now, if you look at a cruller, I mean, it's not 12 inches long, right? And a regular coffee, just a regular. Didn't ask for anything extra. She did that as a routine, and then she decided to just look at the calories. 1,000 calories. It was a 1,000-calorie routine.
Yeah.
A routine.
Routine for 1,000.
If you have 1,000-calorie routine, even at dinner time, I mean, it's going to be hard to manage weight.
Yeah, no doubt.
So good for her for investigating
the
calorie density of that little routine. And needless to say, she stopped doing that routine instantly.
Yeah, it's such a good point about routines too, because that's what we're trying to work on with people, is helping them create new routines and lower calorie routines. And routine is just that. It's automatic and it's easy and you don't have to think about it. And wow, it's just 1,000 calories of autopilot is
Costly.
Costly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unhealthy.
Yeah.
Just the quality of those calories is also not great. So
right. Give me another one.
So the other one that came up in class, and one that I agree with is, and this is a little bit in the health halo, is olive oil, or really condiments, salad dressings, and just the fact that there was even like a measurement of them. I thought that was interesting. So olive oils and nuts, those came in a lot. Those are biggies.
Came up with us too. Yes.
Right? Interesting.
Yes.
So the olive oil one is interesting. I think that a lot of my members were very surprised to learn that olive oil was so calorie dense. At 125 calories a tablespoon, and really that's all oil for the most part, that, people pour it on their salads, they pour it in the pan when they're cooking without really thinking much of it because it's healthy. So how bad can it be? But it can rack up 800, 1,000 calories, and you aren't even noticing it because it's not like it's the food, the volume. So that one was a big one. And then that led to a conversation on condiments, and that condiments actually have a serving size. Like the serving size is 2 tablespoons on most salad dressings, like things like hummus. We talked about a lot of that. And people were like, they didn't know that. And that was interesting because people open the hummus and they eat the party tub,
Yes. Right.
So
right.
I thought that one was really funny. So those are interesting ones. The calories can add up really quickly without an awareness around it.
Absolutely. So we just finished a second round on a program material. We try to get our members to really collaborate and contribute to these materials because they're better materials because you just have more people working on it. Yeah. So it was favorite salad dressings. So we did this in 2023, and then we revisited it, and again, just finished it a couple of weeks ago, and we added some. So I'll have to figure out if I can make that material available somehow as a link in the description.
Yeah, because I think it would be fun for people to leave this podcast with a couple of to-dos.
Yes.
So here's all this calorie information. What can you do if you want to keep your calories down? That would be great. That'd be such a helpful resource.
Yeah, I agree. Back to olive oil. So Barbara, who's in our program, so Barbara is just an amazingly successful program member. She's been keeping off 127 pounds or so, give or take, for I think 3 years or more. And her favorite example, because it blew her mind the most, was what you just said: the simple tablespoon of olive oil, and she would hold a full blended shake and say, these are the same calories. She mentions this one all the time. A profound effect.
Yeah.
It's just such a striking example of how dense the calories can be, and how when you know calories, you can start to game the system in a way and experience some freedom with food volume without the calories getting away from you.
Oh, that's such a good point. I remember, back in my early fledgling days at HMR when we were trained, I loved learning about the calories because one of the things I took away was you can actually eat a lot of food if you choose differently.
That's right.
And that was a win. And that felt freeing because it taught me the skills of eating higher amounts of vegetables and fruits, particularly vegetables, so I could feel full and like I was eating all the time and not feel guilty about it. And I think
Yes.
that it's such a win. And that's such a great example right there, what Barbara said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when, we both work with people to weave in some days in the box, even if they're in phase 2, keeping off weight. And those are your days where you have to worry the least about how much you're eating. Just
Yeah.
because by definition, if you're in that box, your calories per bite, per ounce, per cup, per meal, they're as low as they're going to get. And I just love that idea, the freedom
Yeah.
of the phase 1 box,
It's
which is
so
a
true.
point one of our members makes all the time, Robin. Embrace the simplicity.
Yeah, it's so true. And a lot of people don't know it. They think I still get people thinking that if they're eating too many servings, it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
There's this whole thing out there. You shouldn't eat a lot to be thin. Like if you are eating too much, you can't possibly be a thin person. And that's just not true. It's really what you choose. So,
Yeah. Probably the biggest epiphany for the average person who
mhm.
joins the program.
Yeah.
All right, I have a category for you.
Okay.
Misleading mints and other tricky foods that you can pop in your mouth. That's a big, long title. Yeah, so a couple of examples here. So Andrew shared this one where he got into a habit of eating Ricola. Is that how you say it? Ricola.
Cough
right?
drops. Yeah.
Ricola cough drops. And, he bought them and he's like, well, they're just cough drops. And so he kind of got into a mindless pattern of eating them. And then as he was, going through the bags, he decided to look at the label a little late in the game. 16 calories per cough drop. His bags, which we will leave how many of the bags he was eating, we don't need to get into that, but 450 calories a bag. Yeah, so that was Andrew. So let's add to that Steve. Okay, so Steve, who keeps 3 different types of records. This is a guy who's on point. 3 different types of records. Decided to go back into phase 1 for a stint of weight loss and got hyper careful around the calories he was eating. And he discovered that he was eating more than 400 calories a day in mints.
Yeah.
In mints. Just not confronting the little insignificant seeming calories of the mints or the Ricola cough drops or whatever else that you can pop in your mouth.
So can I tell a funny story? So my gym has a bowl of mints, and they're there when you go in and they're there when you go out. And they're not sugar-free mints. They're regular Lifesaver mints.
Right.
So, I grab a handful.
Uh-oh.
And very similar. I was thinking one day, I'm eating a fair amount of these mints over the course of the day. Maybe it's worth investigating. And they were 15 calories a mint. So I was probably eating,
That's a lot.
yeah, 10, maybe 10 a day. 650 calories,
There's a mile.
right?
More than a mile.
It's interesting. So that's a
Yeah.
good category because that's sneaky.
Yeah, 10 little mints. You forget you had them. Just, every hour or two throughout the day. A mile, 10 of those, it's a mile and a half for me. 2 more. So you mentioned nuts earlier. So
Yeah.
Steve C mentioned almonds, which, he put those right up there with avocado and olive oil under the health halo, right?
Yep.
And then he looked at these almonds he was eating, 230 calories in an unbelievably small amount of these. And that's a pretty big investment in calories, no matter what you're looking at.
Yeah, and I think this is one that people just don't know because I cannot tell you how many people just think that nuts, almonds, walnuts are healthy, and they are. But when you're eating handful after handful after handful, you can eat 1,000 calories. And again, it's calories at the end of the day. So, have you ever had a member come to you and say, I'm doing everything right, and I don't know why I'm not losing weight? And then you investigate a little bit through food, keeping records and journaling, and lo and behold, it's something that's insidious: nuts, mints, oil, condiments. That stuff can add up.
You really can. So unless you're someone who can comfortably eat like one almond at a time and have a stopping point, and that is not me.
I'm laughing. Like who?
Well, there are some people. I mean, that's why I always laugh at the guidelines can seem a little bit trite because it's almost like, are these guidelines for Americans and healthy eating, are they being developed by someone who's never struggled with their own weight or worked with someone who found it challenging? Because it's just that, well, and just eat this many almonds.
Yeah.
Well, that's a nice idea, but it's a little harder to practice.
Well, and then the 100-calorie packs, which I have bought because I thought, well, they're good for me. I should probably eat them. And I have them and I use them. But have you ever seen how many are in it? Like,
I'm sure it's pretty discouraging.
It's so small.
Yes.
It's hardly worth it. I mean, it really isn't worth it. I'd rather spend 100 calories somewhere else. I mean, one of the ways I kind of get around that is I'll make a giant vat of salad that lasts, 2 or 3 nights. And I'll put a couple of tablespoons of slivered almonds into that. And that way I feel like I'm getting the benefit of the almonds without getting all the concentrated calories. So there's a little hack.
8 almonds in my most mindful, deeply intuitive eating moments. I would not. Oh, okay, I'm done. 8. It's just not me. And it's not a lot of people. All right, other couple quickies here. The old tricky foods that you could pop in your mouth. So Cynthia shared this one. She was eating popcorn, 150 calories a bag, right? Mm-hmm. Or so she thought. 150 calories for a quarter bag. So that not very big bag, Jina. Let's find, 3 other people.
Yes.
To share that with.
Yes.
600 calories a bag that she thought was 150. How discouraging is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is.
That's just a bummer.
Funny, the shareable thing. So I told you this when we were talking about it. I love peanut M&Ms, and I'm at the checkout and I see as I'm waiting, I see the candy all there, and I look at the yellow bag of peanut M&Ms and I pick it up and it says shareable. And that to me is a joke. Like, who is sharing this? Who am I sharing this with, really? It's just large. That's all it is. It's just a large bag. It was 480 calories for that bag. And I could have eaten that on the way home in the car.
Can we please stop talking about peanut M&Ms now? Because that's one that is, I'm more the salty savory. I'm a slave to that. Yeah. But some of the rich stuff, like that is really, and I think I've mentioned this to you before. That's one of those ones where it's impossible to eat one at a time. Like that's one you're putting them in before you're done with the previous however many are in your mouth. The food scientists at M&M, they've got it figured out on that one. The mouthfeel, whatever the appropriate crunch is, the level of sweetness.
Like that initial taste in your mouth when you crunch it. I want them. It's a good thing I don't have them here. I'd be in trouble.
So I've got one more. I've saved the best for last. This is, to me, one of the best sneaky, tricky calorie examples in recent memory, and it's recent. So one of our members, Rick V. Great guy. We are still laughing about this one. So Rick, who enjoys the 0 calorie per spray.
Yes.
Can't believe it's not butter, which if you're just listening, I'm showing it on camera here. Mm-hmm. Could it be more prominent? 0 calories per spray. Mm-hmm. Of course, there is a little asterisk there. But who cares about asterisks, right? Yeah. Well, it's 0.45 calories per spray. Mm-hmm. And traditional rounding rules, you round that down to
0.
Right? Yeah. 0.
Yeah,
So Rick is thinking, this stuff tastes pretty good. It may not be everyone's choice, but I love it. I put it on a lot of things. Mm-hmm. He decided, since it didn't have any calories, he could he doesn't have to use the spray. He could actually take it off and just pour it a little because, I mean, it's 0 calories.
Right.
Yeah. So the small one of the 0 calorie per spray, I can't believe it's not butter, is 770 calories.
Oh, come on.
Yes. And the
Wow.
larger one is over 1,000.
See, that's a really good point about marketing and labeling. Important stuff. Read beyond the read. Read the asterisk.
One of my, you mentioned to-dos at the end here.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, for me, it's maybe a little general, but it's, and even as many years as we've been doing this, you got to be humble about what you think the calories are in whatever it is that you're eating. You have to be humble because you're probably going to underestimate.
Yes.
There's just a lot of forces at play there.
Well, the other thing too, I mean, if it seems too good to be true, it just might be. So, don't take it at face value. Do a little bit of digging with that because at the end of the day, if you think it's 0 and you're using a lot of it and then you're missing calories and your weight is up and you're wondering why, and it's very frustrating anyway, but that's going to make it even more frustrating.
Absolutely.
Can I give one more example? Can I just share? So I had a similar experience where I decided that I wanted to cut out dairy. So I got this vegan coffee creamer, and the coffee creamer I had used before was 20 calories for 2 tablespoons.
Right.
So I quickly looked at it and it said 30. And so I just assumed in my mind it was for 2 tablespoons and it was for 1, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but I drink 3-4 cups of coffee every day. That's a routine. I love coffee. I'm never stopping. And I was off. I figured out the calories. I was off by 250 calories a day.
Unbelievable.
I'm in something as benign and silly as that. So again, it taught me make sure you read that because it can be as simple as that. So,
well, speaking of being off on the calories, I was going to leave this to the end, but I'm going to share it now. So I have a slide that you've seen this one before. It just is several different studies that show different groups of people miscalculating or misestimating calories. So diet and exercise, on both ends, we tend to underestimate our reporting of things that we would feel guilty about.
yes.
And there's not, that's just all humans do that. And we tend to overestimate physical activity being an example, something we might feel virtuous about. So that's human nature. So all the studies show that. So just to quantify it, so these were people who reported a failure to lose weight. I cannot lose weight unless I eat under 1,000 calories. Well, then they put them in closed metabolic wards for 2 weeks where their food was handed to them. There was no guesswork on this. They were underestimating their food intake by 47%.
Wow.
Overestimating their physical activity by 51%.
Wow.
But here's the interesting thing, Gina. The authors point out, and I'm quoting here, however, that the errors did not appear to be an intentional deception, but rather occurred below the subject's conscious awareness. And isn't that the whole point? All of this happens below our conscious awareness. Calories are really hard to track. And then the last thing I'll share, a separate study. This was an unusually successful group of weight loss maintainers, people keeping off more than 30 pounds of weight loss for more than a year. More than 30. So the average, who knows, 50, whatever. So it's more than 30 for more than a year. These unusually successful weight loss maintainers underreported their calorie intake by an average of 605 calories per day.
Wow.
That's for people who are really
doing it. Yeah.
Food choices and working really hard, and they're off by 605 calories per day.
Right.
Again, not a personal flaw. It's more of an indictment of the food culture, which is just bombarding us with foods that are so high in calorie, much of which are hidden calories.
Yeah. I think it's the hidden and the sneaky and the insidious things that really are helpful for people to know, because it's and I don't want to say easy place to make a change, but it's certainly it's a starting point to at least have that awareness so that you can maybe look at it differently. Whether you track calories or not, you can make a change so that the calories are lower. So I think that's so important.
And that whole mystery factor is so frustrating. You want to hear a classic example? This is Bill's example. He was working with a guy who, the guy was well off, and he had a cook who prepared his meals for him. And he got a new cook for whatever reason. And he went through carefully his guidelines because he was keeping off a lot of weight.
Mm-hmm.
And so the new cook got the guidelines and whatnot. Over the next year, this guy gained 35 pounds. And he had a real sit down eventually to review the guidelines. And the woman was following every single guideline.
Yeah.
Except she wanted the food to taste good. But she was adding, you know what, olive oil.
Yeah.
He figured it was about 350 calories a day of olive oil that was unaccounted for.
That's it.
Isn't that unbelievable?
That is unbelievable, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes total sense. Yeah. So what is there for people to do with this information? I think it's such valuable information. I think knowing you have a calorie budget, everyone does, helps to give some of these examples some meaning, as you said at the beginning. Mm-hmm. So there's that. Think about exercise. That one muffin for 600 calories is 2 hours for me. It's 6 miles for you. So just takeaways.
Well, number one, I say don't assume that you know calories. In fact, I'm going to just show a slide, and I think you will have your mind blown. This is a classic one, and this put this under the actionable stay humble dictum. So let me just show this to you and have you react to it. I'm showing the Chipotle, which is a very popular restaurant, and I'm showing the distribution of calories on their meals. So look, it's a bar chart. Anything to the right is over 1,000 calories.
Yeah.
So how many of their foods, when you just get them the way they're ordered, are over 1,000 calories? It's well over half.
Yeah. It's the majority, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're going to be working pretty
1,200, 1,400, 1,600 calories. And honestly, Rick, Chipotle to me has sort of a healthy spin to it.
100%.
I mean, it's not McDonald's.
Oh, no, I mean, even knowing that, I still feel like, well, it's not McDonald's. So like you said,
I mean, there's sort of some virtue there. Like, well, I didn't go to McDonald's or whatever, So,
yes.
So
again, it's a good working assumption. There are almost always more calories than you think. So even that Chipotle, well over half, look like 70% of their meals were over 1,000 calories. And then I'll just share one other one that blows your mind. So Baskin Robbins, the Heath Bar Shake. Mm-hmm. Now, no one's sitting here saying, well, I'm on a diet, I'm having the Heath Bar Shake.
Right.
But how bad can it be? It's got what in it? It's going to have Heath bars and certainly some cream, and they're certainly going to do their sugar. But
can I
Gina,
guess?
Yeah, go.
2,000 calories.
If you guess 2,000 calories, you would be underestimating it.
No. Come on.
This is there are new ones now. This is one of the classics. 2,310 calories in the Baskin Robbins Heath Bar Shake.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's the world we live in.
Yeah.
So extending from this idea of you have to be more cautious than you think, that sort of leads to the types of foods that are more likely to have your weight responding in a way that you're not happy with versus other types of foods. And to me, that's a big actionable takeaway when you can appreciate calories. Mm-hmm. All of the foods that you intuitively know you need to be cautious about, you probably need to be more cautious than that.
Right.
Because the calories just add up so quickly with such small little portions and packages.
Yeah, and I remember one time hearing somewhere that, sometimes people say things like, oh, what's the big deal? It's just one meal. It's just one day. But the reality is that these foods pack such a calorie punch that you have to work so much harder
Yes.
to deficit. It's like, you climb that mountain and you've got to work. I mean, you go down that mountain when you eat that shake, you've got to work so much harder to climb the mountain. So it's not equal.
Right.
So I think that's the rub. It's like, okay, how bad could it be? It's one thing, it's one day, it's one whatever. But you may have that means you might have to be, and I don't want to say perfect, but you have to really watch it for 6 days.
Yeah.
And that's hard for people if they don't have a lot of skill, if they don't have a lot of routines and healthy habits. So there's that part of it too. So yeah, kind of.
Another, just to put numbers to it, 3,500 is a good number. So let's say, it's an unstructured day and you're out in the world of calories and you have over 3,500 calories over your budget. So to break even works easily 7 days. You got to be under by 500, but that's under by 500 for 7 consecutive days.
Right.
And none of that's automatic. So much planning, so much problem solving, so many concessions as you just walk through life if you're trying to undercut your budget by 500 calories. The math doesn't
That's
work.
one of the biggest issues I think that people struggle with. That's right there. Boom. Is that, cheat day. I can have my cheat day. Well, with the amount of calories, the density of calories in foods today, the muffin, the frap, the coffee drink, the oil, it adds up and it adds up fast. And to your point, do we have the skill level out there, most of us, to have 7 consecutive low calorie days? I don't know. I'm still learning how to do that. I've been doing this a long time.
It's getting harder.
It's hard.
That Baskin Robbins Heath Bar Shake is just a baby now compared to, that was from 10 years ago. That was one of the classic examples.
Yeah.
But then the other side, so more caution than we even think, and let's, environmental control.
Yes,
If
that's another good
these
one.
calorie dense foods are in your home and they're on your mind, you're going to eat them. And that's just called being human.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a big one, is set up your world to support you.
Yes.
That's the to-do that I think is helpful. If it isn't there, you're not going to eat it. If it's there, you're going to eat it at some point.
And it's hard to have a clean home environment, but it's at one point, do you remember in our early days, we had sort of this axiom, the home must be a safe haven, calorie wise. It has to be. If you're losing the battle at home, you're never going to win the battle because the fight is out there. This is at least you get some level of control over it.
No, 100%. And there's things you can do too. I mean, if you live with kids, I mean, maybe their snacks are in one drawer that you don't go into and you have your cupboard over here. So there's all kinds of strategy and little hacks and things that you can do. So don't just abandon I can't do it because I have kids. There's some problem solving there that can be, because I think environment is so important. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. And then I think also if let's just say there are some rich or sweet, like tasty things that are calling your name, there's something to be said for coming up with alternatives that are in that direction. Like, that's why shakes are so brilliant. You can make a Snickers bar shake. There's no Snickers bars in it, but you can make it taste like a Snickers bar with the various add-ins. Just look for the recipe and just extend from there.
Substitutions are a really good takeaway from this. So that's good. Those are a couple good ones.
Yeah. I would just embellish a little bit more of the potency of the to-do approach, which is giving yourself more permission to eat a larger volume of very low calorie foods. First of all, psychologically, how much easier is that? You don't have to say no, right? Tastes are learned. That's an important part of this. I will just tell you, I can say you're aware of this, but I had a very big birthday recently and I had 3 birthdays. And let's just say the calories have not been managed very well. So last night I had a little bit of a moment of honesty. And what I did was I took probably my favorite mixer veggie, summer squash and zucchini, and I steamed up. I have a massive pan, 12 cups of it. It's actually in our slides this week for our program members. So I steamed up 12 cups of, and what I'm doing is I'm adding it to all my meals just to bring the calories per bite, per ounce down. So that's like a really clear example. Maybe I'll show a picture of that here for people who are watching the video, of the to-do approach. And like, because of the calories, I'm not going to get into trouble with zucchini and summer squash at 21 to 25 calories per cup. I'm just not.
And it gives you a lot of food to eat. You can say yes, and you can eat it, and it feels freeing. And that goes back to the point I was making earlier, that I cannot stress that enough, how important that is. When you can say to your brain, yes, I can,
Yes.
and instead of no, I can't, it is psychologically freeing, especially with food.
Such a difference. So, yeah, I think we've struck a cautionary note of what people already appreciated, but hopefully even maybe a little bit more about just how devastating high-calorie foods can be. You know, we spoke mostly about the calorie consequences. I do think, before we finish, I'll just add two other things which make the argument for caution with the high-calorie foods even more compelling. Once you start eating them, it's harder to stop. So beyond the calories, just the behavioral, these foods are very, very addictive. There is all sorts of terms being used now about foods today. Hyperpalatable.
That's the one I hear all the time. Hyperpalatable. Yeah.
Ultra formulated, super appetitive, super addictive. So that's number. And then number three, even if you have success in saying no to the cruller, that one hit me hard when Angela shared that one. Now you have crullers on your mind.
Right.
Just because these foods taste great. Right. So there's really three tough realities about the high calorie food. So home, safe haven, and then leaning into the to-dos to give yourself a little bit more freedom with food, given the calorie.
Absolutely. Substitutions are great. Like potato chips. Just lastly, I know we got to wrap, but if you like a potato and you like it to be salty, take a potato, slice it into little slivers, spray it, salt it, and cook it in your air fryer or in the oven, and you're going to get a crispy, salty potato chip that's way better for you and far fewer calories. So that's one of those substitutions that I think people can wrap their head around.
Absolutely. Spray. I can't believe it's not butter spray, though. Don't pour it.
Yeah, do not pour. No pour.
No pour. All right. Well, we'll be revisiting calories an awful lot because it really is the foundational framework for everything that we do vis-a-vis weight management. So this, let's consider this chapter 1.
Yes, definitely. This was great.
Okay. Great.
All
Now
right.
go make a high volume, low calorie meal or snack, whatever's next for you, and I'm going to do the exact same thing.
All right. You better after that birthday celebration.
Yes.
All right. Bye.
All right. Have a good day. Bye.
You too.
It should have been just a routine visit to the hospital. But then I got hungry, and it turned into an encounter with the hospital muffin. First, I went to the coffee shop. Next, I scanned the different food items. And then I saw them. A bin of softball-sized muffins. So I bought one. It seemed so innocent in my hand. So patient and unassuming as it sat atop its napkin next to my coffee. But then I picked it up again, and I felt how much it weighed. Could it really weigh this much? I had to find out. So I appropriated the cafeteria's digital scale, and what to my wondering eyes should appear, the number 0.68 pounds was unmistakably clear. 0.68 pounds? That's 10.88 ounces! Which is the same as 308.44 grams, which is identical to 0.048571 stone, which in the diamond world would be 1,542.2 carats, which finally, in the world of dump trucks, corresponds to 0.00034 tons. But forget all of that. How many calories were in this thing? Muffins have at least 100 calories per ounce, which meant that this baby had at least 1,088 calories. Call it 1,100. 1,100 calories in a muffin. In just one muffin. In my one muffin. I won't compare this with the fact that I could have had 10 to 12 bananas for the same calories, or 4.5 cans of mandarin oranges, my favorite, or I could have had just over 9 cans of tuna, which, even though I love tuna, may have been a bit much. Or I could have had 15.7 cans of green beans, which would have been definitely hard to carry. Or I could have had a double shake that morning, brought a benefit bar, and saved 700 calories while escaping from the shock, from the horror
of the hospital muffin.